Hello to everyone and welcome. Before we take a look at the artwork I've got to share with you today, feel free to press the pause button to get a cup of tea, coffee, wine, or some other favorite drink to relish as we rest here in the gallery. Inspired by all the delicious content in this particular work of art, I have gone to my refrigerator to fetch a cool and lovely green glass bottle of Korean soju to sit next to me. And as soon as I finish recording, I plan to make a cabbage pancake snack to go with it. As a bonus for this analysis, I've included a link down below in the description for a recipe for one of the foods from the movie. It's okonomiyaki, a Japanese savory pancake. So if your mouth was watering like mine was at the point in the movie where this is made, maybe you'd like to try your hand at cooking this. I'm no culinary genius, but I found this one fairly simple to make, and it's accessibly open to interpretation, as our female lead's mother demonstrates in the movie, and as the meaning of the name okonomiyaki itself suggests, which is literally grill what you will. The 2018 Korean film Little Forest is an annual comfort watch for my daughter and me. In considering what makes this movie so comforting to us both, I realize it operates on multiple levels. It's a comfort food movie with its celebration of delicious seasonal dishes freshly harvested from the land right outside our female lead Haewon's house. I don't recommend watching when you're really hungry unless you've got some amazing snacks on hand. With its contemplative pacing, this is a relaxing, calming, and healing film that wraps you up in a year's worth of beautiful seasonal countryside scenes and sounds. This is a movie about timing, changing seasons, and patient waiting. It's also a movie about friendship, and there are also sweet, subtle elements of romance woven into the story. It works as a movie about a mother-daughter relationship too, but it's also about personal growth and finding and refinding one's purpose in life at different seasons of life, like at the point of coming of age and also middle age. Throughout, this film is a sumptuous feast of cinematography and ambient sounds. The theme quote I've landed on for this analysis is taken from the movie itself. These are the words of Jae-ha, friend of our female lead, spoken to Eun-suk, the other hometown friend of our female lead. Both of these friends are busy tending to Haewon's garden in order to help her while she's away back in the big city of Seoul. While Eun-suk is annoyed at Haewon's sudden disappearance, Jae-ha thinks instead that she'll be back soon. He considers the kind of work they are busy doing in the garden, covering up newly planted onions to protect them through winter and allow them to take root securely, and he says Haewon is preparing for permanent planting. We then get Haewon's voiceover saying that permanent planting means no transplanting, but planting for good. Then we switch to hearing Jae-ha's voiceover telling us that onions which have endured the winter taste sweeter in the end than spring onions do. Now, they are talking about more than only gardening here. Permanent planting is a gardening metaphor for something deeper, at the soul level. I think permanent planting is sacramental even, as it is an outward sign of an invisible reality of grace. And it got me wondering, what does it take to achieve permanent planting in life? I found an answer to my question in this passage from the Bible, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 3. I pray that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Being rooted and grounded in God's love for me is the way to endure the frost, the difficult circumstances in which I'm sometimes planted, and His love for me makes something sweet in the end that fills and satisfies. The first in my series of images related to the theme of permanent planting and being rooted and grounded in love has to be this one. I think this is a pivotal flashback conversation between Haewon and her mother as they sit outside together, each eating a tomato fresh from the garden. Haewon asks her mother if she wishes to date again, but her mother responds that she dated plenty with Haewon's dad. Next, Haewon asks, "Do you miss Dad?" There is no immediate response to her question. But after eating all but the top of her tomato, the mom throws the bit of tomato away onto the dirt and says, "Even if it's thrown like that, tomatoes will grow next year. It's amazing." In a voiceover, Haewon continues, "In order for it to grow like that, it must be a ripe tomato, grown outdoors, with plenty of sun." Mom meant that she missed him. Think of Haewon's mom thrown by life circumstances when her husband is sick and she needs to be his caretaker. They return to his hometown with their 4-year-old daughter. Her husband dies, but out of love, Haewon's mother stays to raise her daughter in this hometown. What enables her to go on? Perhaps the mother is saying that she, like the tomato, is able to grow because she received plenty of sunshine and love. She's rooted and grounded in love. Now think of how at the beginning of the film, Haewon arrives from Seoul, thrown by failures, both at her career and a romantic relationship. She tells us she's hungry, empty, and she proceeds to eat a lot over the course of the movie. That Haewon is hungry at both a physical and a spiritual level all makes sense, I think, because we are bodily creatures and we are also spiritual creatures. The body, food, material stuff matters, and the invisible to our eyes spiritual stuff matters too. In Korean culture, asking, "Have you eaten?" is like asking, "How are you?" So in short, Haewon is not doing well. She's been devoured, you could say, and thrown in her summer, her first attempt as a young adult at independence. But she's able to eventually recover and continue to grow because she's rooted and grounded in love, that of her mother primarily, and also that of her friends. When Haewon first comes back, embarrassed, her pride hurt over her failures, she's hoping to keep a low profile. But her old friend, Unsuk, will have none of that, and quickly discovers her and hugs her, saying, "Welcome home, I missed you." Then Jae-ha shows up with his puppy for Haewon to keep her company when she's scared at night, telling her that warm, living things are comforting. These three friends reconnect over meals together, sharing a delight in the different foods and drinks and the memories these things evoke, and also sharing what's been going on in each of their lives since graduation. In her pride, Haewon tries to erect a facade of indifference about her situation or collectedness about her life plans, but these friends see right through her, so she might as well be comfortable and open with them. Being known and cared for by these friends and the shared history they have together is all part of the rich, loving soil in which Haewon is able to achieve permanent planting. Haewon's friends come alongside her and are there to support her and wait patiently as she takes time to heal and searches for the answers to her questions. Haewon herself reflects while planting potatoes in her garden, "You can get spring greens for free, but potatoes take hard work. It all takes time. You have to wait." A couple of times in the film, we realize that Jae-ha remembers things our female lead has forgotten, and he helps her to recall parts of her own childhood story. He's also able to say certain hard but necessary things to her, like when, almost a year after Haewon's return from Seoul, the two of them are working in his orchard in autumn. He remarks, "Keeping busy like you have been won't solve your problems." Haewon is mortified at first and exits the orchard as quickly as she can. She returns to the orchard a few days later after a storm to help clean up. By way of a peace offering, Jae-ha hands her an apple from one of the trees and says teasingly but pointedly, "It held out through the typhoon, unlike you." Back at her house, Haewon admits to herself, "Jae-ha is right. I ignore what is important and evade the problem by pretending to work hard." These words from Jeha, coming after a necessary space of many months of dormancy for our female lead, cause a certain turning point in the story. She realizes it is finally time for her to move forward and to face things fully. Throughout the film, we get to see Haewon taking refuge in the kitchen and in cooking and eating the food dishes from her childhood. While she's there, she keeps hearing the voice of her mother in her head, and this really bothers her. She's still angry at her mother for leaving home first, just before Haewon graduated from high school. Haewon had planned to strike out on her own for independence, to shake the dust of her rural hometown off her feet and show her mother that she knew better. But her mom beats her to it, and that has injured her pride. I think she feels abandoned by her mom, but sometimes love can feel like abandonment at first. We come to the realization, along with Haewon, that as she's been taking refuge in the kitchen and working around the house they once lived in together, all along she's really been taking refuge in her mother's love for her. At one point we hear Mom's voice in Haewon's head speaking these words: "Cooking reflects your heart." The love Mom has for her daughter is spoken again and again by all the foods she has prepared for her over the years. After her friend Jeha delivers those challenging words to her, Haewon decides to reread her mother's departing letter to her and finally understands what her mom was saying back then. Here's the letter. "Haewon, you'll leave here for college soon. I want to go and try things that I had given up to get married early. I may fail, and I'm worried that I may be too late. But I'll walk out our front gate and make my own time. I always said everything is about timing. I think the time has come now. I didn't go back to Seoul after your dad passed away because I wanted to plant and have you set root here. When things are hard, remember the scent of the land, the wind and sun here. Then I know you can dust yourself off and get up again. Let's think of it as the start of a long trip to return home well." At last, Haewon reaches out to her mother in love, and she writes a letter back to her mother. Haewon is now ready to resume her purpose in life for this next season of her life. It made me think that vocation, or my calling in life, which may change from life season to life season, arises from a secure identity as being a beloved child of God, rooted and grounded in His love for me. Haewon puts it like this: "For Mom, the nature, cooking, and her love for me have been her little forest. I should find my own little forest, too." She's finally aware of all the love she's received, and that what felt like abandonment wasn't, in fact. Her mom's love was right there all the time. Haewon's identity as beloved is secure. She knows herself better, loves herself better, and is ready to return a yield of love for others. The theme music for my analysis is the title track from the album Evermore by Taylor Swift. This song, Evermore, is lyrically meaty and melancholy hopeful, with a progression from hurt to healing. Listen to some of the lines and think how they relate to our movie heroine's flight from failures and her arrival in winter. Consider also how the lyrics relate to the metaphor of being thrown and recovering, patiently rooted and grounded in love. Notice that shift in the song toward the end because of the presence and love of a person. Gray November, I've been down since July. I replay my footsteps on each stepping stone, trying to find the one where I went wrong, writing letters addressed to the fire, and I was catching my breath, staring out an open window, and I couldn't be sure. I had a feeling so peculiar that this pain would be forevermore. Hey December, guess I'm feeling unmoored. Can't remember what I used to fight for. Can't not think of all the cost and all the things that will be lost. Oh, can we just get a pause? To be certain we'll be tall again. Whether weather be the frost or the violence of the dog days, And when I was shipwrecked, I thought of you. In the cracks of light, I dreamed of you. And it was real enough to get me through. But I swear you were there. And I was catching my breath, floors of a cabin creaking under my step. And I couldn't be sure. I had a feeling so peculiar that this pain wouldn't be forevermore. A link to the song is provided down below in the description, so you can take your time listening. That's it. Thank you so much for stopping by the gallery, and I hope we can all eat well today. Now, as we continue on our way, let's do our best to stay awake to gather the beautiful.